Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a senior and accomplished professional from Nigeria, Adebimpe Jesujobi. Bimpe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, sir.
Bimpe is the founder and executive director of EDEN-EDUCARE Foundation. She's a project manager with the WIWA Project Partnership. So, Bimpe, my first question for you: what early life experiences shaped your commitment to educational advocacy and working with vulnerable children?
When the early life experiences that shaped my my working with vulnerable children was because I experienced firsthand what it means to be a vulnerable child. I was a vulnerable child. My parents were financially challenged, so I was separated from my parents for a few years, and I experienced hell in the hands of the people, the guardians who I was living with at that time. I was tagged a witch. So as a child, as a 7-year-old, I was tagged a witch. I was flogged publicly. I was publicly humiliated. I was beaten at several places where they said they wanted to deliver me. I wasn't put in school. So all of these things, growing up, I didn't want any child to experience such suffering, such discrimination, and such dehumanization, because it is something that will affect the mind of the child even until the child is
Well said. Well said.
old and gray.
Absolutely. And tell me, what were the biggest personal challenges you faced when transitioning from intent to action to starting your foundation?
Oh, okay. Okay, personal challenges were, number one, I lost relationship with family members. Some of my family members, in fact, one of my parents disowned me
Mhm.
and said they didn't want anything to do with me anymore. And it took me years to rebuild that relationship. And then I was alone. At that point, I needed support system at every point,
Mm.
but I didn't have the support system. I was alone. I was a learner, so I didn't have anybody to hold my hands. And then another personal challenge was financial challenge. I didn't go into it as a rich person. I didn't go into it with so much financial strength.
Mhm.
So those were the personal challenges I faced
Mm.
when I started Eden.
Amazing. Was there a defining moment when you realized your life's work would focus on out of school children?
Okay, I would say that when when I was working in Western Nigeria, that's Lagos, the city where I was born,
Mhm.
and I discovered that some children over there too were experiencing what I experienced growing up. And I checked, and it was not just one child, not two children, not three. So at some point, I traveled again to another community, which is a rural community. And I discovered that a lot of children were experiencing such pain, such abuse as well.
Mm.
And I just knew that, ooh, I don't think I can live with myself if there are a lot of children experiencing this, being out of school for so long, and then, they are experiencing things that will cause them pain even when they become
Mm,
adults.
mm.
So that was when I just made up my
Well
mind
said.
that
Well said.
I was going into this. And then the God factor as well
Mm. Absolutely. So
was
let's now
part of
talk
what
about
shaped.
the EDEN-EDUCARE Foundation. What was the problem you were trying to solve
So,
when you founded your foundation?
okay, I I was trying to solve the problem of child abuse in children who have been marginalized, children who,
Mhm.
you know, who felt, who were not included. Yes, who were not included. That was what I wanted to solve. I didn't want any child to feel left out. I didn't want any child to feel like, oh, somebody is better than them, or they do not measure up to what society needs at any point.
Mm. Very nice. Can you explain the educare philosophy and how it differs from traditional education models?
Okay, the I'll start from the traditional educational model.
Yeah.
The traditional education will teach you, of course, you go to school, you learn to read and write, and then you learn to socialize. But not every time you learn to socialize in the traditional educational system. But with the educare system, it is a total, it is a total care, the care of the mind, the care of the child's mental health, the care of the child's daily needs
Hmm.
as well. Because a child's daily needs will always have an effect on how much the child can learn and how well the child can learn.
Hmm.
So that is the educare model. The educare model talks about the total care of the child.
Hmm. Very nice. The I Adjust initiative reduced absenteeism by 60%. What does this involve, and why has it been so effective?
The I Adjust initiative is an initiative that worked with the child. The child is a key stakeholder in the I Adjust initiative. The parents, the um, the local leaders as well were were all part of this initiative,
Hmm.
and working with the parents, we have an agreement with the parents. Okay, what that the child is experiencing at home. You want to know how the child's sleeping pattern. You want to know what are the things that this child loves to do. So you want to be in the life of the child. You want to be in the life of the parents as well. Because the parent as the caregiver has a lot to do in the life of the child. So if the child does not have enough care in the house and comes to school, the child cannot adjust. So we try to bring a balance to the child's life in the house and the child life in learning spaces. So that was what the I Adjust initiative was all about. So if the
Mm.
child is happy at home, the child is happy in school as well. It
Yeah.
helps the child to not have maladjustment issues in any way. So
Yeah.
psychologically, the child is sound, and in every way, you find a healthy child and a happy child.
Wonderful. How do initiatives like Feed a Child and Clothe a Child integrate into the educational plans?
Okay, so feed a child and clothe a child is very key because for me, I work in a very rural environment.
Mm.
We have farming settlements all around us. So most of our children were probably born by farmers, except the ones that were abandoned or the ones that we know that they do not have anybody to care for them. But most of them were born by farmers and laborers, like, labor workers. And so feed a child and clothe a child. Most of these children, they come in, we have some children who come into school with just their panties on. And in Eden, we don't send away any child. We make sure that any child that comes in goes back happy, a fuller belly and a covered back. And with that, a child, his dignity is preserved and his smile is kept intact, and you build curiosity. He wants to know what is happening here, what is happening in this place that makes me happy. I think I need to go back there. I think this place is a good place that I really want to visit daily. So it keeps coming back because there's something about him the way he is. People who do not look down on him, people who love him the way he is, people who accept him and include him in everything. So that is what the Feed a Child and Clothe a Child initiative is all about.
Fantastic. How do you tailor your programs for children who have experienced trauma or neglect?
Okay, that now we're speaking about psychosocial support for every of our children, the children who come into our space. We have a support, but some are just more intense than others. Because if you have a maladjusted child, if you have a child that has been introduced drugs, you have to do more than with a child that is just transitioning from one school to another. So with a psychologist, we have a psychologist from Wesley University. Is a consultant, and so he gives us advice. He works with us to support these children, and we have some of our women from the WIWA projects. That's the Western Illinois University Western Africa projects. We have some of those women as well who we liaise with to give us psychosocial support for all our children, and all of this has been helpful to help our children get reintegrated into the school system. And this has helped us over the years because if a child is healthy mentally, he'll be able to take on life's challenges.
Well said. So, Bimpe, you run a tuition-free model. What are some of your operational challenges and funding challenges?
Okay, sir. Okay, one of the operational challenges is usually funding, which is very challenging because a lot of people do not want to put their funds into a work that they do not trust. But at the same time, if a work is not funded, it cannot attain a point where it will be trusted.
Yeah.
So for now, the fund comes from mostly family and friends. And in the past, we had support from a funder, but donor priorities changes sometimes. So a donor can decide to withdraw because he or she has something more pressing at the moment.
Sure.
So that fund was withdrawn, which really caused us to have a strain in the last 1.5 years. But for now, working, I think it is because we are used to working with lean resources. So we work with whatever little fund we have with us. I squeeze out from my work as well to ensure that our teachers are paid, our workers are paid, and the children keep coming. Because with children, if you cut off support,
Mm.
it's affects them adversely,
Right.
and that is not something we want to experience with
Hmm.
Eden.
Hmm. Very interesting. You have worked on child abuse and trafficking awareness. What are some of the most urgent issues children face in Nigeria today?
Hmm. One of the challenges that children face in Nigeria is inadequate care, inadequate care, because it's important that parents of a child, and if parents are in the life of a child and they also are mentally stable, they will be able to help that child navigate life's challenges and do well in life. And then also, children, a lot of children are out of school. Millions of children, tens of millions of children are out of school in Nigeria
Mhm.
and in the world as well. Millions, millions, millions of children. And I am very sure, because I have checked all over Africa and I have seen that poverty is a prevailing challenge in the lives of families.
Mm.
And if a family cannot take care of their children, they will probably outsource the care of their children to family members or community members.
Mm.
But there's an African adage that says that the way you will take care of your eyes is not the way somebody else takes care of your eyes.
Mm.
So the way you will take care of your child is not the same way somebody else will take care of
Correct.
your child.
Yeah.
So you cannot have um, control over how that person takes care of it.
Mm.
So I would say that poverty is a prevailing factor, which ends up putting the children at risk of abuse, of trafficking. Because if a child is safe, is in a space,
Mm.
and if a child has everything that he needs, I don't think that an abuser will have so much access to the child, so much access in the sense that even if somebody approaches the child will speak up because the child is feeling safe, and a trafficker cannot have access to the child because the child is in a protected space, in a safe
Mm.
space, in a safe haven. So I think that is the problem that I think
Absolutely.
children are experiencing in
Absolutely.
Nigeria.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Can you share a story of any child, I don't want any names, whose life has been transformed because of all the work you are doing?
Oh, okay, okay. So we had this child that came in. She was mute. She wasn't speaking, and when she came in, we thought she was a deaf and dumb. So I just worked with her as someone who has experience with special needs children. So we loved her. We accepted her the way she was. We made sure that her needs were met. We took her out, bought clothes for her, and she was excited. And in class, I put her in the middle of chatty children, very chatty children. Children who are always talking and all of that. And one day, she just called my name. She just called my name, and I was shocked, and it was a very happy moment for me.
Mm.
She called my name, and I was so, so, so happy. I was dancing for joy. And that day, I found out that she had experienced the loss of her mom. Her mom died right in front of her. Her mom was murdered right in front of her. And she was raped in her the community where she was brought from, because she was brought from the East. So she was raped, I think, twice or so.
Oh my
So
God.
all of those things were the things that made her to be non-speaking. And when she came into a happy space, when she came into a place where she felt safe, she found her voice, she found herself, and now she's thriving. She's in year 7 now. That's She's in the secondary school.
So, Bimpe, my last question for you. What is your long-term vision for EDEN-EDUCARE?
For EDEN-EDUCARE Foundation, my long-term vision would be to have a sustainable village for children, to have a safe space, at least 100 children. So we'll have a shelter that will house a school as well. And we'll have a mental health support place as well for them. A place where they can think and they can imagine and they can dream. And also within this space as well, I would desire a place for women who are working to support children. Because, for example, in the WIWA projects that we're doing, that's the Western Illinois University, Western Africa, a lot of women in that program work with children, vulnerable children. And these women need support. They need, mental health support. They need all the support that they can get. And for the WIWA projects, we are learning project management the world-class way. And this will help us speak the language of donors and help us have access to donors and help us have a good reporting structure, good documentations, so that our work can have integrity and people can trust our work as women that are first responders. Because a lot of women in Nigeria, they just go into this work with passion, which I did as well, because I didn't know about project management in the non-profit space. I didn't know about that until I started the project management thing. So this WIWA project, I am hoping that it goes beyond here and the women can have like a space, come in, learn, relax. They can regenerate energy in this space. They can learn, they can unlearn, and we can have access to funds from all over the world and even within Nigeria, and we can tap into ourselves as well, and get support from each other as well.
Very interesting. And on that note, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for all the wonderful work you're doing for so many children in Nigeria. And I sincerely hope
Thank you so
all
much,
your
Brian.
dreams are recognized and fulfilled. Thank you again. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.